Hello everybody, I'm Lamar and welcome to the gaming test. So, let's get on with it, shall we? For today's test, I'm gonna use this Toshiba 50-inch 4K UHD HDR TV because I got a new TV and the games console I'm going to be using is the PlayStation 4 Slim, and the games I'm testing out are Injustice, Spider-Man, Need for Speed, Payback, Overwatch, Ratchet and Clank, Horizon Zero Dawn, Uncharted The Lost Legacy, Uncharted 4, and Infamous Second Son, Fortnite, and PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. Right, so without further ado, let's take a look at HDR settings. Video output information, resolution 1920 x 1080 minus 60 Hz. Color format RGB. Information for connected HDMI device. HDR supported. So what we do now is to fire up the first non-HDR game for today's test. I think we will start with playing a bit of Injustice. So let's fire one up. Right, so here we are with Injustice. This is a non-HDR game. The TV is in game mode. And the colors are just popping up here. And the pixels looks really cool with 4K pixels. Those pixels are really cool. And the pixels are looking really cool. The gameplay always cool. And the motions are really, really cool. Very cool.
For my family and clan, you're indeed my
And the picture settings looks really cool. Right, so I think what we do now is to move on to the next game. I think we will play another non-HDR game, which is Fortnite. So let's fire one up. Right, so here we are with Fortnite, and wow, this is definitely a non-HDR game. Again, we are in the game mode on this one, no HDR on this one. Some people can get a lot of complaints. Some people say some games can be in HDR, and all the games are running into the game mode, standard game mode for the budget game mode. Right, so let me show you. Picture game mode, true HDR on. And the colors are just popping up and pixels looking really, really cool. With 4K pixels. But no 4K and no HDR on that one. Because it is a non-HDR game. And up, down, left, right. These motions are non-HDR motions. No HDR on those motions, because some people can get a lot of complaints, but I cannot get complaints about the game. The game is running in low frames per second. It's due to be in game mode, actually. Actually, it's in game mode. And that looks mega. Right, so I think what we do now is it is time to move on to the next game, which is Overwatch.
Riding and shuttle gear.
Right, so here we are with Overwatch. And it's suited to Toshiba, that game.
Cheers, love! The cavalry's here! There we go! Wait for me!
And that game is not in HDR. And
Well, that just happened.
in some people's opinions, they'll come up in HDR. In some people's opinions. But it's not over the top. In everyone's opinions. It's not just about my opinion. It's not going up and down or replays and all over the place like pair of budgets.
Back in the...
And
Traveling to Havana. Prepare your defenses. Select your hero.
the gameplay looks really, really cool.
Cheers, love! The cavalry's here!
Yonder.
Think you can keep up with me?
Hey.
Hiya!
Yonder. Attackers incoming in 30 seconds. Yonder.
All systems operational. Diva, ready for combat.
Right, so I think what we do now is to move on to the next game,
You get those of us with skill of
which is Player Unknown's Battlegrounds. So let's fire one up. Right, so here we are with Player Unknown's Battlegrounds. And that game is suited to Toshiba, that game. And left, right, up and down, because these graphics are not HDR. not actually HDR. People thinks it's suited to them 4K TVs, this game. And it's not going glitchy, it's not going wishy-washy, and not glitchy. And let's look for a peaceful spot, which is quiet and peaceful. And where I'm gonna land down should I land down here? That's a question. Yes, I may land down here. So find some weapons. Open the door, close the door. Aha, I finally got a weapon. And anyone won't kill me. This place looks mega. $83 alive. 82 alive. Right, so I think what we do now is to move on to the next game, and I think it is time for HDR gaming now. The one I'm starting up is Uncharted 4. Right, so here we are with Uncharted 4. This is a 4K and HDR game, and that is the PlayStation 4 Pro enhanced game. And all the people say PlayStation 4 Pros do enhancing games, like 4K. So let's take a look at the TV. Let's take a look at picture settings. We have True HDR on, Game HDR mode. We are in HDR mode. And let's take a look at the modes. We have Cinema HDR, Natural HDR, Dynamic HDR, Sports HDR, and Game Mode HDR. And let's take a look at the information of HDMI. Let's take a look. We have HDR.
Mr. Catherine?
And the gameplay looks really, really cool.
You open the gate for me.
Come in, Father.
And that game was really, really cool in HDR graphics and
Sam, hold up.
4K graphics. All the best TVs for gaming, like this TV.
Almost there.
And up, down, left and right. These movements are HDR.
Sam?
HDR movements.
Oh, you gotta learn
And-
to watch your back.
Alright.
Hey, it's good to see you, little brother. What was that? Really? Again?
It's nothing.
You told me you'd stay out of trouble, though.
The
I was talking
game
shit.
is
So?
in HDR.
Dad dumped us here because we're worthless, and Mom is in hell
And
Nathan, come on, they're just saying it because it gets to you. Alright? You just gotta learn to laugh it off.
You wouldn't.
right,
Do as I say,
so
not as I do.
I think
You'll catch
what we
cold.
do now is to
So, what are you
move
doing
on
like this anyway?
to the
If the nuns catch you, they're gonna call the cops.
next
Some kid.
game.
I couldn't wait till Christmas.
I think it is another HDR game, and that is
This was an exception.
Uncharted: The Lost Legacy. Right, so here we are with Uncharted: The Lost Legacy. Again, this is a 4K and HDR game. There's a teddy bear on the chair, and there's a statue on top of the stairs. So, let's take a look at the TV. Let's see. HDR, high dynamic range. This is another PlayStation 4 Pro enhanced game. All the PlayStation 4 Pro enhances do 4K and HDR.
Get out while you can.
So, let's take a
I've done nothing wrong!
Would you take a look at this? The game is moving in movements of HDR and 4K.
Yes, sir. You.
Hey, hold on. What's your rush?
And
How do I know you're not smuggling something in here?
that game is always in HDR.
Hey,
Dangerous to be out so late.
hey. Where do you live?
4K.
What are you, deaf?
HDR stands for High Definition Resolution.
I like this one.
I'm in the middle of
and
something. Yes.
high dynamic range. That's them two words stands for HDR.
You with me. Man the gun.
Sir, what about her?
Just let her through.
The cutscenes
Get going.
are in HDR. Left, right,
Lucky for them,
up
I've got somewhere to
and
be.
down is in HDR. High dynamic range movement. The light's just popping up here.
Red door. Check.
And my TV is in game mode with all the enhance all the games in HDR in this 4K TV. So Toshiba is the best TV for 4K and HDR gaming. Because it is the
Not this way.
best TV ever. So, right, so I think what we do now is to move on to the next game, which I think we will do right. I think what we do now, it's time to move on to the next game, which is another non-HDR game, which is
You're useless.
Infamous Second Son. So let's fire one up. Right, so here we are with Infamous Second Son. This is a HDR game, and that game came out in 2014. So, let's take a look at the TV again. HDR. For all HDR games, everyone will always look at the TV, taking a look at the TV. So let's take a look at the settings. Let's take a look at the picture settings. All HDR games have to have game mode HDR, high dynamic range by true HDR on. It is a HDR game. And the pixels looking really, really cool. 4K pixels in that TV is really, really cool. And this is a PlayStation 4 Pro optimized game. Optimizes the, but not all optimizing games. So HDR games is up, down, left and right. That is HDR, high dynamic range, or high definition resolution. And that is mega. That looks mega. Right, so I think what we do now is to move on to the next game. It is... We are on time for HDR gaming. It's time to move on to another HDR game, and that is Ratchet and Clank, my favorite video game franchise. Right, so here we
Does
are
that
with
ship look
Ratchet
backlifted to
and
you?
Clank.
Get on that bolt crank, come on! Come on, give it a spin.
This is a PlayStation 4 Pro enhanced game.
Okay, let's see if these new Versa bulbs work. Look up. Do you see something flashing?
Yep.
Oh.
Left side looks good.
It's a miracle. On to the afterburner light.
Lower left afterburner light checks out.
This thing might just be space-worthy after all. What?
Lower right afterburner works. So, are we good?
Yep, we're good. The news says the tryouts
game
are being
is
held
a-
at the fairgrounds. Show them what you got.
HDR, high dynamic range.
So Ratchet began his adventure, hoping to become
So
a galactic
let's take a
ranger.
look at the TV picture. Game mode HDR. HDR, high dynamic range, is all enabled. The games are in HDR. Some games become all HDR games. All the Ratchet and Clank games are really good.
Ratchet bashed his
It's
enemies
my-
using his trusty omnibus.
My favorite series of games of all time.
In order to best his foes, Ratchet used the warrior's time-honored tradition of jumping.
Big Al, you can earn think or you can explore. Your goal is to complete a whole set of holocards.
And the colors are looking
Should he find
vivid.
himself on the verge of death, he'd need to find nanotech to heal.
Oh, I used that stuff after a bank robbery once. It healed like 3 out of 5 gunshot wounds.
In the Ratchet and Clank film, Grimroth is voiced by John Goodman, and in the video game, Grimroth is voiced by Travis Willingham. Travis Willingham is a really good voice
That's
actor.
displayed a flagrant disregard for public property. Look at him smashing crates. The hubris.
Maybe he was just saving up bolts so he could buy a new weapon to protect the galaxy with.
Hey, who's telling the story here? With his enemies vanquished, Ratchet forged ahead. His destination, destiny. Are you ready to be a galactic ranger? You are ready.
And
Ready to dispense some justice?
this game is an HDR, but not non-HDR game. Not non.
Hello, recruit. Laura Verlux here. Show us how quick you can be on your feet by jumping over these obstacles. Good work. Now keep moving to the next part of the course. A good ranger is always mindful of their surroundings. Hop across these moving platforms. Good job. You could be the recruit we've been looking for. Keep moving to the next part of the course.
This is the coolest HDR game ever. So, right, I think what we do now, it's time to move on to the next game, which is another HDR game, and that is Spider-Man. Right, so here we are with Spider-Man. This is a HDR game, and that is another PlayStation 4 Pro enhanced game. And the theme song always starts in Alive by Wobbly Jets.
Captain Watanabe.
Did you take him down yet?
No, we're at his tower, but still waiting on the warrant.
Mind if I join in on the fun?
You know how his lawyers are. This one needs to go by the book.
Come on, Yuri. I've been waiting 8 years for this.
You really want to help? Head to Times Square. Sounds like his
And
guys are trying to keep my backup from reaching
that
the scene.
TV
You
is
got it. Almost there.
in HDR. So let's take a look at the TV. It says HDR on HDMI 1, and let's take a look at the settings. Take a look at picture settings. We have game mode, HDR, true HDR on.
Hello?
And
Where are you? We must run through the demonstration at least once before the grant committee arrives.
Yes. Sorry. Yes. Dealing with a personal issue.
Good.
I'll be in soon. Promise. Better wrap this up quick and get to my real job.
the game is in HDR, high dynamic range.
Looks like Yuri called in the cavalry.
And this is my favorite part of the game, the main event. And look at these pictures. This picture is really, really cool.
1032, Times Square, officers under fire.
And
Bring in the hammer.
high dynamic range picture looks very, very cool. And the color vivid is just popped up. And high dynamic range and high definition resolution picture is really, really cool.
Morning, guys. Who's ready for their hot, fresh cup of bodily harm?
And this game looks really cool in HDR because this is my first time to play the games in HDR TV. And the TV looks really, really cool.
Somebody just shoot it! This has a lot of guys on his payroll. Get behind him!
Spider-Man, what's your status?
Joy again.
You?
We're about to
That's a
play.
reference in Street Fighter. Joy again.
His face when you slap the cuffs on.
Square and then X for lean off.
Okay, Yuri, all done. What's happening? Yuri? Yuri! I knew this wouldn't go quietly.
Right, I think what we do now is to move on to the next game. We got 2 more HDI games left to test. And which is Need for Speed Payback. Let's fire one up. Right, so here we are with Need for Speed Payback.
Not bad, Tyler, but you're
This is a HDI
You already
game,
won. You just don't know it yet.
and this is a PlayStation 4 Pro enhanced game.
First to the airport wins. You didn't say nothing about roads.
Left, right,
You guys to the garage.
I thought this was supposed to be a friendly race.
This is
because
us being friendly.
Boss one wants to drive the car. This is serious business.
the checkpoint has missed, just accelerate or reverse. Gotcha.
I haven't seen Max this excited since the Vendetto job.
Aren't you?
Biggest job we've ever done?
And
You bet I am.
the movements are in
Time to
HDR.
kick this up a notch.
So let's take a look. Let's take a look at the settings. I don't think this is HDR. I need to adjust HDR a lot of times. That's a good thing to adjust.
Relax, honey. Let's make you fly. We're clear for takeoff.
It's going on clear.
I was just going easy on you.
This game has a lot of cars. Lot of cars. And the stereo.
Shut up, Max. Shaking my head in disapproval.
The stereo you can hear is not from amplifier, it is from the TV itself.
Still think you're winning.
And it's not loud. And it's the cinema quality.
This is where it counts.
This looks like the cinema quality. Keep trying. Right, so I think what we do now is to test the final game for today's
moves.
test.
Don't expect that to work next time.
Another
Always one step ahead, buddy.
HDR one, and it's another PlayStation 4 Pro enhanced game, which is Horizon Zero Dawn. Let's fire one up.
It's done, Morgan.
Right, so here we are with Horizon Zero Dawn. Again, this is a 4K HDR game. This is another PlayStation 4 Pro enhanced game. Anyway.
There are rats down here.
Let's have a look at the TV.
Looks tight, but I can get through.
Let's take a look at the settings. Take a look at the picture settings. We have HDR, game mode. We have true HDR. So let's take a look at the information. We have HDR, Dolby Audio and HDR. I bet it's not going up and down all over the place.
This must be a ruin of the metal world. One of the old places. Ross says we'll never go in places like this. But I have to find a way out.
The graphics look really cool, and movements looking really cool with HDR supported.
There's something up ahead.
The game looks really cool with PlayStation 4 Pro enhanced picture.
There's something shiny there.
And this picture is in game mode, and it's HDR, high dynamic range and high definition resolution. And right, so
Lights. Everywhere. How does he do this?
So what we do now is to finish this video. Thank you everybody for watching, and I'll come back for more gaming tests. I will come back. Goodbye. See you in my next video.